I still regularly have really, really hard days. And during those days, I'm just like, okay, breathe. Like, we know you're going to get through this. I know you're going to get through it. I know you're going to be okay. But also, it's okay if you're not okay right now.
Emily Gould, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. We're very excited to speak with you. So if you could, just for our audience, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? What do you do? And we'll kind of take it from there.
All right. Well, I am from Utah, born and raised in Salt Lake City. I'm really big into advocating, especially for childhood cancer, and really anything that has to do with children, whether it's education, physical, mental, emotional resources. That's really where my passion is.
What drove you towards that passion, specifically helping children and children in pediatric oncology?
My kids were all super healthy, right? This is probably a story that a lot of people can relate to. And then without warning, my oldest daughter, we took her to the ER thinking that she had appendicitis, and we found out that she actually had a cantaloupe-sized tumor in her abdomen that was displacing her major organs and surrounding, arteries that supplied blood to her liver, to her heart. So we went from thinking that, oh no, maybe the appendix is ruptured, we might have to stay inpatient overnight, to a whole world we didn't even realize existed.
And how old was she when that happened?
She was 15. She had turned 15 just a month before.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's unusual for neuroblastoma.
Yeah, they actually said that she was the oldest patient that has ever been treated at our hospital, at Primary Children's Hospital, by 4 years. And they said that having an 11-year-old with neuroblastoma is very uncommon, but having a 15-year-old is like lightning striking in the same place twice.
I'm very sorry to hear that. What was, would you say, during that time, what was an important lesson that you learned for other people who may be going through a similar thing during your daughter's battle with neuroblastoma?
Cancer is very, very isolating, both for the pediatric patient, whether they're a teenager, whether they're a newborn, whatever it is. It's a disease that seems to be very isolating, just because, the vernacular is different, the treatment, things that would not be acceptable in normal medical practices are just run-of-the-mill with cancer treatment. And so I've been very fortunate. I have a support group of other cancer mamas, and we're able to just talk about the hard things. And, we laugh and we joke about all the other things too that life has to offer. But having that support group, finding your people, is very important, especially when you live in such a traumatic environment where it is, even when your child's doing well, the person in the room next to you is not. And so you have to find ways to make sure that you're able to stay in a healthy mindset and be able to recognize that, your heart can be so grateful for your child being able to sit up on their own today, but it also can recognize how hard the situation you're in is.
Totally. The human emotional spectrum is definitely complicated enough to feel everything at once.
Yes.
How do you prevent yourself from burning out in that situation as well? As you mentioned, it can be very overwhelming with all the different emotions at once.
Yeah, actually, with Lexi's treatment, the majority of the really hard treatment took place over the course of 17 months. And over that 17 months, we spent over 330 days inpatient. And so it definitely, cancer is a marathon. And then even after cancer, a lot of times there are physical, emotional, and even mental aspects that aren't very well talked about. So a couple of things that I focus on with making sure that I don't burn out is, first off, just recognizing that I can. I think we make a mistake when we say, oh, we can go, we can go, we can go. I think recognizing and listening to your heart and just saying, oh, you know what, today that's too much. It's too much today for me to try to, text back, or it's too much today for me to try to, make this post or whatever it is, and be very in tune with who you are as a person and what your needs are.
Almost like forgiving yourself. It's like be a good friend to yourself in a way.
Yes. And that is one of the most important things. Just give yourself that grace, where I still regularly have really, really hard days. And during those days, I'm just like, okay, Em, breathe. Like, we know you're going to get through this. I know you're going to get through it. I know you're going to be okay. But also, it's okay if you're not okay right now.
Absolutely. It's okay to not be okay, and to forgive yourself. I do love that. And that's definitely an important insight. I appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
So you mentioned some of these mama groups, though. What are some of them called, if you'd like to name a few for people that they can reach out? I don't know if they're national or...
So there's a few. Our local one, we actually have a Facebook group called Utah Moms with Cancer Fighting Cuties. The thing that is nice about this group is that it was started by cancer moms, and you can go in and you can ask questions about anything. So it's a nice support to be able to have that safe space that you can go and ask questions about literally anything. A couple of the organizations that I work with, one of them is the American Childhood Cancer Organization, and that is one that is very focused on getting funding for childhood cancer to be more recognized on a legislative level. And they are very focused on saying, hey, let's start this conversation. I work with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and they're a national society. When we were very first working with them, they were very focused just on the research aspect of childhood cancer, which is so important. But unfortunately, research isn't going to help the families that are in the trenches right now, right? And so now they're expanding to where it's like, what does survivorship look like? And let's help those families. And, what does fighting for your life right now look like?
And actually, you touched on something there too. I mean, our organization, Childhood Cancer Society, focuses on helping the families financially and emotionally. But one of the things I'm always curious about too, and I hope you can answer this question, is how can someone, because people want to help, right?
Yes.
Like your community, they want to help, but sometimes you want to offer support, emotional support to a family battling pediatric cancer, but you don't want to say the wrong things either. And are there any like do's and don't behaviors that you might be able to share with everybody that you feel? I know it's a perspective thing, but
I only laugh because Lexi and I, when she was going through her treatment, were joking that we were going to write a book called What Not to Say to a Childhood Cancer Patient.
I love that title.
And it's not ever oh my gosh, I can't believe somebody said this, right? But it's more, like you said, people genuinely want to help. People are genuinely, for the most part, they're good and they just want to help and they don't know how. And so I think when I say just offer some understanding, it's just recognize that this family is going through something that you hopefully will never even have to comprehend. As far as the impact that cancer has on not just the immediate of somebody we love is suffering, is hurting, may die, but also there is the family having to spend time apart. There's always things, if they're inpatient, bring them a pillow, bring them a couple. Hospital pillows are the worst. Right. They are the worst. So those kind of things are always super helpful. I remember we had a lady that I actually didn't know before Lexi got diagnosed, and she contacted me and she said, I'd like to do something for your family. And I was like, oh, that's nice. And she goes, I'm just going to bring you dinner every Monday at 6:00 through treatment. And she said, if you're home, that's great. If you're not, I'll go home and put it in my freezer and then I'll bring it back to you.
Oh my God.
And
what a sick.
That's
so nice.
It was incredible.
That's actually the perfect thing. I love that example too. That's really, really wonderful. Thank you for that. I know you wrote a book, and I'm wondering what your process for writing that was. What have people's reactions been to your work, and how has that shaped your perspective going forward?
Yeah, my first book is called Turning Weeds into Wildflowers. It's interesting because I never really planned on writing. It wasn't something when I was little. I didn't say, hey, I'm going to grow up and be a writer. But with my process, so a friend of ours started a Facebook group, a Facebook page. And I remember, so my youngest daughter, I have 4 kids, and my youngest daughter's birthday was 8 days after Lexi got diagnosed. But I remember my husband saying, hey, let's just see if maybe we can just have it be our family tonight, just to check on the kids, see how they're doing, kind of check in just as a family. And he said, maybe you should just post something in that group that was made. And I was like, I don't even know if I joined that group yet. I said, there's 10 people in there? And he's like, no, there's I think it was 2,000 or something.
This was specifically your group or a group for cancer moms?
No, it was specifically mine. It was a group.
Yours? Yeah, got it.
Yeah, a group that was set up. It's actually still on Facebook. It's just called Alexis Strong Fighting Cancer Together. And so it was a group set up so that I could post updates about Lex and what was going on, right?
This way you can tell everyone at once as opposed to a million text messages. I understand.
And I was like, okay, if this many people are going to read what I'm putting out there, I need to make sure it's worthwhile. And so I recognized that maybe I can share some of those lessons so that people that are going to be spared from this experience, maybe they can still recognize these own lessons in their own life. So I started writing, and throughout Lexi's journey, we saw some incredible miracles. And so my desire was to share that. So I continued to kind of share and this sort of thing, and then was approached about writing a book. So I kind of I just kind of compiled stuff, and then I submitted it to my publishing company, and 18 days later I got a message, we'd love to publish this manuscript, this is what we need. And and it was all about finding joy in the midst of our struggle, and finding faith and family, and understanding what truly matters in the midst of this childhood cancer journey.
We have our superhero Adventure Ted character who goes around helping the mindsets of all people, but also especially children with cancer and the families that are going through that. And he has a phrase too, which I feel jives very well with that, which is, it's true that you can't control everything, but if you can see the adventure in all that you do, no matter what life brings, it can help you maintain an optimal mindset. So that whole phraseology, that mantra, I feel like translates into our feelings as well. And I think it's so important that your family found that and shares it with others too, because that is the truth. Life you can't control. All you can control is your response and your mindset and how you feel about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you and I have talked about just that you look at not just the child with cancer, but the family as a whole, and how important that is. I spent a lot of sleepless nights, and they were spent reading different medical journals or, psychology journals or whatever, to try to better understand our situation, things that we may be facing, and the family, particularly the siblings of a childhood cancer patient, are affected on such a deeper level than people recognize. And so I really love that you guys are treating the cancer diagnosis completely as a family and the impact that it has, because I think that will be so helpful, especially in the years to come. And so if we can address those things and work through whatever happens, whatever comes, whatever reactions we have with all of our kids, then we can actually help them to become healthy adults and not try to have them clean up the mess, 20 years later. But let's just talk about it now.
Right, and to feel open about that, and to be able to share, that something is bothering you. And yes, of course, if someone in your family has, cancer, mother, father, child, everyone feels it together, because the same thing about love being the answer for understanding. Love also can hurt, and when you love hurting, it's hurting us all. So, are there any upcoming projects that you're looking forward to? I know you had mentioned that there was something coming up on August 8th. Maybe you'd like to share with everybody as well.
Yes, actually, August 8th is the release of my second book. It's the official release of It Gave Me You. As I was going to write the second book, that was really my focus, is let's kind of dig a little deeper, rather than writing about a cancer journey as a family, right? Like, let's dig a little bit deeper into the reality of this world. I know you're aware of this, but our audience may not be, that my daughter Lexi actually passed away. She was diagnosed at 15 and she passed away at 21, and she was cancer-free. That was very important for her. She passed away of multiple organ failure. So when we talk about burnout, I often get asked that question, and I get asked, why would you even want to be around that world? It just holds so much hurt, and it holds so much pain. And the answer is because she chose to be. It was very important for her, and I can hear her tell me, "Hey, Mama, I know it's hard, but we're going to be okay."
And I'm so glad that you did decide to hang in a difficult space, so that you can continue her work and her mission, and that shines through you, and keeps her with us all here as well. So we do want to thank you for your important work in a mission that truly needs people just like you, people who understand what people with pediatric cancer are going through, and even more so, people who have lost a child in that situation. So that something very few people can relate to, but it's so important that there are people that you can relate to and who can offer guidance in that space. Emily, I want to thank you so much for all that you've done here. I mean, this was a lot. It's a lot to unpack, but it's very, very, very important, and there's a lot of nuggets in here of wisdom that I think is going to help a lot of people.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, and thank you so much for having me.